Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our special budget meeting for the municipality of West Perth. Um, just before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that Andrew Fournier will not be with us tonight. But I think we have everybody else here and we have a full line, looks like a firing squad almost sitting out in front here. So we will call this meeting to order. But just before we do that, I think we'll take a moment of silent reflection. So just bow your heads for some silent reflection. Okay, I take it that there's nothing else to add to the budget that I have heard of. So motion to confirm the agenda as it was circulated would be in order. Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Um, does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Okay. Just before we get into to the budget deliberation, and I pass the chair to Dean, I just would like to acknowledge, because I may forget by the time we get to the end of the meeting, but I do want to acknowledge the work that the volunteers and the service clubs put into the lights at the park. Um, I saw them tonight and again, and they look quite nice. So I think we where congratulations is due, and I think we had pretty well every service club involved helping to do that. So, and as well as the BIA, they kind of coordinated. So I think it's good. And, it looks good for our town at the intersection of the two highways there. So kudos to them. Okay, at this time, then I will pass the meeting over to our budget chair, Deputy Mayor Trunkowski.
Thanks, Mayor McKenzie. Welcome, council colleagues, staff, and members of the public. We will proceed with tonight's special council agenda dealing with budget matters. So we're in section 4 of the agenda, reports, and we will start off with item 4.1, 2026 staff operating budget changes. And to help get us started, I'll call upon our treasurer, Wendy McMurray.
There we go. So we have a slide deck prepared to walk us through the budget presentation. So we'll go through the reports, and then in the slide deck, there is any reports that have recommendations. They're in the slide deck, so we can catch them. So the first report is the changes that from the last meeting to this meeting. And so what was presented back in October showed that you had little over $1 million being contributed to capital. And then since then, we've had some changes to the budget, some minor changes. We got our WSIB and EI rate, so they went down. So we saw a decrease in our benefits. And then you'll see that throughout each department, that little change in those. And then some of the other items that got identified, there was an increase in health and safety for certifications. There was, we brought in the streetlight levy at 155,977. We brought in the transit PC Connect at 155. We brought over some projects that were identified in the capital that should be operating. So the sponsorship program is under contracted services in the arena for 40,000. And the tennis court repairs at 50,000. Small increase for cyber insurance for the library. We decreased some legal fees and economic development. And then one of the other main changes you would see in the report is we moved things from the cash requirement and we moved them up into the department. And so cash requirement is no longer a department. And so you'll see the principal payment and the interest payment within the department. So it kind of pushes it up into the department that's paying for it instead of as a cash requirement. Just a different look. So those are some of the changes, but the other one to highlight on the changes would be, let's find it here, would be the carrying cost for the arena at 259. So those are the changes in that report, and gladly take any questions if there are.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Colleagues, any questions or comments for Wendy on this report? Councillor Bank, go ahead, please.
Deputy Mayor Trentowski, I guess to each of these specific changes, you don't want to specifically talk to anyone if there's a upcoming report on them, like transit or arena. You'd rather talk to them at those points in the meeting?
Yeah, if there's anything here that isn't covered later, we could always circle back, but it's probably appropriate to wherever that item pops up throughout the evening, then we can probably best to focus the questions at that point. Is that good? Good. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, then the recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth receives the 2025 operating budget changes report for information. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Rose, seconder. Councillor Harold. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. Item 4.2 is the PC Connect transit item, and I'll turn the floor over to CAO Hobson for his report on that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. So before Council tonight is a PC Connect Transit report. Just going back here, initially Council had requested staff to investigate a new PC Connect partnership. And we have gone and spoke to North Perth, City of Stratford and St. Mary's. They're the existing partners in that PC Connect partnership. On August 11th, we presented Council an option to support a joint Ontario Transit funding application, and we provided the grant amounts to that. And following that, we've come back to Council here today. We are, I think, at the crossroads where we've kind of gone through with the administration of the partnership, and we are looking for Council's direction. So as you can see in the report, we have a cost in front of us of $155,000. That is at this point, an annual cost. We're looking to fund the PC Connect, our contribution to it. That would be fully funded regardless of OTIF funding or any other grant funding. As noted in the report, we would be looking to fund this transit system so it has established reserves past the OTIF funding time period, as well as we would be looking to update the funding model and agreements following. There's a current report being done by Dillon Consulting as a review of the current transit system being offered by North Perth, City of Stratford and St. Mary's. So what we're presenting to you today is essentially a worst case budget item number. This would secure AM and PM 6-day service through from Listowel to Mitchell to Stratford. At this time, we're proposing a stop at West Perth Village and the community center, as we did previously. And then on the next slide, if I can, I just pulled some data from the last time the rural route was funded by the County of Perth. And you can just get a sense of how the ridership and the patterns that you were seeing. So sorry, the charts are a little small, but you can see essentially that Mitchell was the second best performing stop for riders getting on, third best for riders getting off. And the route itself, you can see how the number of riders had begun to steadily increase through the end of 2024. So that's the last data set we can give on this specific route. And again, that's noted from Perth County, November 13, 2024 report. If there's any questions at this time, I can try to answer them, but we are having a recommendation here to enter into the partnership and have the budget number there funded, so we can move forward with grant applications and transit service.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Questions or comments, speakers list? I'll start with Councillor Duck. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trankowski. Thanks, CAO Hobson. Just, I guess 2 quick questions. The 6th day, I'm presuming Sunday would be the day that we're not looking at offering transportation. And then the, there and backstop. So we're talking morning and afternoon. What kind of hours would we be looking like? Obviously enough time that somebody could go to Stratford and work for the day, or is it more shopping based? What would those hours look like for the service?
Yeah, the target for us is certainly to get people to and from work, and then the Saturday one would be your one that would capture more of your tourism standpoint. I don't have a model at this time of the hours, but based on I'd say it's similar to the last route. So someone would be getting on prior to 8 a.m. I'll say, and getting off after 5.
As a point of information, my recollection, the previous timetable was a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Window, if I remember correctly. Mayor McKenzie, go ahead.
Just a question for you, Dan, and I maybe have missed it when I glanced through it, but are we looking at 1 trip a day, couple trips a day? Like how often will this continue through the municipality?
I think at this time we're looking at, I guess it's total 2 trips, but an AM and a PM trip. So kind of a go and a return standpoint.
Okay, Councillor Bank, go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski. In your report, Dan, you mentioned some financial forecasts that the city manager was able to provide. Is that something that you'd be able to share with us at council? And then, so I asked that as, do we need to make a decision on this tonight? And if we need some more information for it to help us make the decision. And the reason why I asked for some financial forecasts, when I roughly do the math on $155,000 a year in cost, and then if we use the rider numbers, let's say 800 riders in 2024, that's $200 a ride, roughly speaking. So I'd like to take a look at some of those financial forecasts, if they would be available before making a decision.
We can make those available to council. I'm just gonna look quick and see if they note the fare cost here. So I can take a minute, or I can report back.
Okay, while Dan's looking that up, are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, it was just, if we go through with it, how much of the program cost are we paying in relation to the other communities involved? Which is also a Dan question.
Yeah, I think as noted in the report, right now we're at an even split, but when we're talking about bringing the program online, and as they're talking about updating what the services are currently offered, we'd be looking for it built into the contract that the price be updated to reflect essentially the service level that you're receiving comparable to other municipalities. So really at this point, the best information that we have moving forward is this equal split. So that's why we've indicated that we're presenting it as essentially a worst case for year 1. The model already shows it going down year over year from a contribution standpoint.
Any other questions? Councillor O'Donnell.
Thanks to the chair. Just a quick question. I lost what I was gonna say because I was tying into Counselor Vinks. Are the three municipalities already signed the agreement? And if one of them doesn't sign, does that increase our price?
The three municipalities are already in an active partnership. So we are the new municipality joining and bringing in the new route. I think they are in a renewal period this year. And I don't know offhand that they've gone to council for direction to enter into the partnership agreement, but there were no concerns brought forward in our partnership meetings that the three wouldn't still be at the table. I think they're really waiting on West Perth for a decision, and then they can move forward. And I'm not seeing a fare specific to this route, like a breakdown of it. It's just noted that they're going to hold steady, and they're showing just shy of about 200,000 in fare revenue. So that's for the full system, though I would say not specific to this route.
Okay, Councilor Rose, go ahead.
For 2024, 542, is that round trips or is that going one way is one and then coming back is number two? So is it in reality 250, 260, 270 or something like that? It like, what are the numbers really saying? Is that the same person getting counted twice because he goes to Stratford and then comes back? So that's two people as opposed to one loop is one person.
Yeah, I think it would be number of rides. So one person, one way.
Any other questions? Everyone's deep in thought. Councilor Vink, was your question answered on the dollars?
No, not specifically. I'd like to take a look at those models as a council, I think, because if we can get it to 800 riders and that 800 rides is costing $200 a ride, I'm not sure that we have an appetite for a transit system at $200 a ride when there might be other options better suited for that money, and that could be, we could do it more economical than that. So I'd like to take a look at the models first before committing to the transit system.
Councilor Duck, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I feel similar as Councilor Vink. I think we want to be certain and we knowing our times. I know, and then yeah, just looking at all these numbers, it's I think something we should take a little further look at than just tonight. And yeah, I feel the same way as Councilor Vink, so I just wanted to let that be known.
Councilor Foster.
If it was 800 rides a month, it would be closer to $17, not 200, because those are the monthly ridership, not the yearly. So that's a much more reasonable number.
Okay, anyone else? I think the number of rides is the number in each of those months. So you have to tally those up and then figure out your cost per ride that way. A.O. Hobson is working on the math here at the moment. What we'll do here is we'll just lay this on the table for the moment and give CAO Hobson a chance to do the math. With council's indulgence, we'll move to 4.3. We'll carry on with that presentation, and then when Dan has some numbers, we'll circle back. So we'll move on to 4.3, the streetlight funding update transition from area rate to general levy.
So in this report, we're looking for council to direct staff to discontinue the development of the special area rate for streetlights and to move the streetlight budget onto the levy, and then to look at creating just a reserve for West Perth streetlight. So back in 2024, staff had looked at moving the area rate onto the levy, and through that process, we started developing a policy. And in looking at the legislation, the defining benefit area is hard to defend for streetlights. And then also the area rate has to be on rateable properties, so it can't be a flat fee. And so in looking at that, the recommendation has come that we move the streetlight onto the levy. And so the report kind of breaks down how the budget comes to be. So 55% of the 155,977 is made up of hydro. And then we did a forecast of the replacement value of all your streetlights over the remaining life. And it's forecasted to need 49,400 contribution annually to make that commitment. And then the other costs are just your wages, materials, and contracted services. So any repairs or maintenance on those lights. And then for the reserves, we're looking at bringing it to a future meeting when we're looking at the reserve policy. But essentially, the streetlight should be reserve funds and then dedicated to replacement or particular, the 11 communities that we've raised special rate for is for any costs associated with that. And then once you establish the new reserve, it's just a reserve and it's at council discretion what those funds are used for, but it will be titled for streetlights. So that's the summary of the report, and happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Wendy. Colleagues, questions or comments for Wendy on that report? Don't see anything. Oh, there's Councillor Foster. Go ahead.
When we brought up streetlights last time, we talked about the water and wastewater notes we had from Earth Power. And I'd like to bring that discussion up again if we're moving it to the levy to help offset it. Now, I don't know if it's the right time to talk about the water note because they had the new well, so I imagine they could rather do with the funding currently, but the wastewater might be in a better position to do it because it was, I got the one from November 18th, 2024 meeting, the staff recommendation or from the moving it. I got Wendy to send it to me very nicely of her on Friday. And like that would help mitigate the levy impact of it if we were to move some of that towards it. Because we made the argument at the time that was always made that went there because the town of Mitchell had paid to buy those notes. And then through the water and wastewater, they received most of the benefit, where now, and that was the argument we made for an area rate for the streetlights. So the same idea should apply, then it would help offset the extra benefit they're getting in a regard that would impact the levy less.
I'll look to Wendy for first reply there.
Sure. So that is your Clinton Power Note. It's currently 900,000 and you make 7.25%. And so you get 65,250 in interest off of that note. So yeah, moving that off of water, wastewater would impact obviously wastewater. And since you're doing a financial plan, it would be a good time if that note was to be removed to be evaluated during that time. And so yeah, if there's any specific questions on that note, I'd happy to answer them.
Councillor Rose.
So Wendy, where was that? If we were not to cash it in, so to speak, what would that monies be used and go towards?
I think the point was to move the interest. So we're not cashing the note. So we're keeping the note, but just be allocating the interest. So currently your wastewater is getting the revenue from that investment.
Okay, so if the wastewater doesn't get it, say we move it somewhere else, where is that money coming from?
Would be your rates.
Oh, so the people in Mitchell would be paying for all the other ones. Is that how that would work? And you, if the interest monies is not going to help with the wastewater cost, that means then the people that live in Mitchell would have to pony that money up, even for the ones that are out in the country, those streetlights. In fact, we are paying for it.
Correct, because you're taking it from one user fee and moving it onto the levy. The Clinton note, I believe, was purchased under West Perth. So it is West Perth dollars that bought it. The other one that's in water was the PUC one, which I believe was maybe more Mitchell. Yeah, that's the distinction on the notes. I'll say your wastewater is doing really well in the investment world. So we're hoping to bring another report, but your PPNs have made over 600,000 in wastewater. So we've realized that gain. And so your wastewater is performing quite well.
Just checking. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'll go back to Councillor Rose.
Okay, thank you. I guess what I'm afraid of is if we use it now and eventually we will need monies for wastewater and sanitary and such, we are kind of pulling that money away where we already have it allocated for that. So we're kind of taking from Peter to pay Paul in a way. You know, sure, it fixes this, but then it causes that. And I understand for people that are all here, well, as long as I don't pay, I don't care. And I understand that. But to be fair, that is kind of the way this amalgamation is supposed to work, because there's other things we pay for in town that is out there that I don't choose. But that's part of being a family. You get along, supposedly. That's
Okay, thank you. Anything from other councillors? Councillor Bank, go ahead, please.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski. What did it look like historically? So you mentioned in the report that 55% of that 155,000 was electricity, and that the other 50 is going to go toward a reserve. When we were collecting it on the area rate, what portion, I guess, what was electricity, and then what portion got put into reserves over the last 5 years or so?
That's a great question. So when we looked at the streetlight budget, I'm gonna say the math was peculiar when we were going through the budget process. So things like hydro would be $2,000, but we'd only really need $500. So then there was a $2,000 adjustment into the reserve. And so when we unpacked all that, we kind of just left it status quo until we knew we were going to dive into it and actually pull it apart. Because of the loan and paying for that infrastructure, there was more funds needed under streetlights because of that. So you'll see the reduction because you're not paying for that loan. But yeah, the roughly 80,000-ish is your hydro, and that's between all of them. So you have different partners, you have Earth and Hydro One. Those are on actuals. So we ran the model on actuals and not on historical budgets.
And Councillor Bank, follow up.
Thank you. Then just to a follow up. So the $50,000 or $46,000 that you're proposing to put into reserves for street 49 to put into reserves for streetlights. Would that get us to a fully funded model in the future, or is that putting reserves for as needed replacement? And I guess we have that same kind of conversation with asset management. Are we going fully funded or cash basis when we need to replace a street light, we put it under the cash?
So your current reserves have about $500,000 in there, and your current replacement is $1.5 million. So we need another $1 million to be fully funded. So at $50,000 contribution, it'll take a long time. So it's not fully funded, but there's enough there to address anything. And then as those unit prices change, we'll change the model. And so does that answer your question?
All right, anything further? Last call? No? All right, so we have a recommendation. I will read it out as follows. The recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth direct staff to discontinue development of the streetlight special service area policy, and that the annual streetlight budget in the amount of $155,977 be funded through the general levy beginning in 2020 in the 2026 operating budget, and further that a new reserve be created for West Perth street lights to fund asset replacement. Is there anyone that wishes to put that motion on the floor? Councillor Rose, do you wish to do so? You do? Okay. Is there a seconder that wishes to put this on the floor? Councillor O'Donnell, you wish to do so? Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder on the recommendation as a motion. So I'll open the floor up for further discussion. Councillor Foster.
When would be the appropriate time during the budget to bring forward the moving of the wastewater money if we wanted to vote on that through the chair?
I have to repeat the question. I didn't hear it.
Sorry. When would be the appropriate time to bring up if we wanted to move the Clinton note from Earth Power? When would be the appropriate time for that discussion? In the chair's opinion.
Well, I'll look to staff to see where this, do we bring up, when do we bring up any of those items? Is it later in the agenda, or is that a separate altogether?
No, we can do it here under this motion. So an amendment.
Okay, so what are your wishes?
If staff would like it now, I'd like to try to make that amendment, I guess.
Please state your amendment.
To move the funding from the Clinton Earth Power note from water and wastewater to the general levy, I believe it'd be the right wording. I'm getting the head nod from Wendy, so that'll be my motion then. And is there anything else I need in that motion? I'm gonna maybe direct that to James.
Through the chair, we would like to note if that is effective for the 2026 budget year. And I would just take the opportunity to note that that fund amount is $65,250 is the amount of the funds that are being referenced by the counselor with respect to this amendment. So again, we'd just be looking for clarity as to whether that is effective for the 2026 budget.
So effective for 2026 budget year. So
Seconder, do you support that? Go ahead.
Deputy Mayor Trentowski, do you need a seconder for Councillor Foster's amendment? So,
Yes.
so then
Yeah, I'm getting,
I would second
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Foster's amendment.
okay. All right, I'll ask the clerk to read out the amendment one more time, please.
Through the chair, thank you. Motion wording I have here is that council approves the reallocation of $65,250 in earth note interest from the wastewater to general levy effective for the 2026 budget year.
Okay, the amendment's been read out. So any further discussion on the amendment as read by the clerk? If not, I'll call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? The amendment's defeated. Okay, so the amendment's been defeated, so we're back. Point of order, please. Point of order. If there's something that needs to be brought to the chair's attention, please bring it now. If not, go ahead.
There seemed to be a bit of confusion on what we just voted on. It was voted that the monies was coming out and going into.
I'll have the clerk, I'll have the clerk read the amendment motion one more time.
Through the chair, the amendment motion which I have is that council approves the reallocation of $65,250 in earth note interest from wastewater to general levy effective for the 2026 budget.
And it went through, correct?
No, it did not. It was a tie vote. I did not put my hand up, but I vote against it. Therefore, it's a tie vote. The amendment's defeated. Okay, so with that clarification, thank you, Clerk Hudson. So we will move back to the original recommendation, and I will read that one more time. Recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth direct staff to discontinue the development of the streetlight special service area policy, and that the annual streetlight budget in the amount of $155,977 be funded through the general levy beginning in the 2026 operating budget, and further that a new reserve be created for West Perth streetlights to fund asset replacement. So I'll ask the clerk, we had a mover and a seconder. Could you confirm those, please?
I can, yes, through the chair. The motion was moved by Councillor Duck and seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we move into moved and seconded. Now we move into discussion. Councillor Duck.
I was just going to point out for the record, it was actually Councillor Rose that moved that motion, not myself.
Through the chair, that's correct. I was incorrect. Thank you.
All right, so we've got that rectified. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Last call. All right, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, just look to Dan. Is there any do you have the information from the previous item?
I have some of it at this time, but if I can, I'll keep working and circle back.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we've dealt with 4.3. Moving on to item 4.4, 2026 draft capital summary. So I'll turn to Wendy to start us off there, please. I believe there's a fairly lengthy slide presentation and submissions from our department leads on this. So take it away, Wendy.
Sorry, we're just getting the slide deck ready here. So this is the meat and potato section of the meeting. And so here we're going to get into our capital reports. In order to kind of help you read the report, you'll see that each project's been given a project number, and then On the first column will be the expense or the investment into the capital item. And then the next 5 columns are how we're going to fund it. Being the last one, you'll notice it will say levy. So that's how much we're going to be raising at the end for all these capital projects. And so there's a total of 67 projects. I can just get the next slide deck. And out of those projects, we're going to fund some of it through the OCIF or Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. This year we got just a little over $1.1 million, and it's going to fund 80,000 into asset management, line 32 resurfacing at 800,000, and line 49 preventative maintenance at 375. There is some carry forward from prior years to help fund the the Wellington carry forward project, and then structure 020H. And so the next slide, please. So this is your Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, or formerly known as your AMO gas tax. The project this year staff have put forward is the arena upgrades, so your ice plant. And so our allocation for this year is $295, $955, and 64 cents. You'll see in 27 and 28 slightly goes up, but that's our allocation for this year. And then so here is just a slide deck that shows you kind of by department and what the spends are this year and the percentage it makes up of the budget. Next slide, please. Just a quick update on your DCs. Your DCs here, you would have seen them in your operating budget, but we anticipate total revenue of 652,000. And with the phase in, we'll actually receive the 619. And so on the levy this year is about $32,000, and that's that 5% difference to make it 100%. And this year, the projects that are being funded through DCs total $716, $848, and they make up your Wellington Street. That's a carry forward from last year. Your crossing, there's a little bit amount in there that can be funded through the DCs. And then your Vivian Lane rail crossing, and then Wellington Street again for your storm. And currently we have collected just shy of, or just a little over $500,000. We're on target for what we anticipate for DCs. So here we're going to just kind of go across the front. Different department heads are going to speak to their budgets. The first slide deck will tag team a little bit just because there's many different department heads that look after this one. But on each of the slides, it shows you the total cost, and then it'll show you how it's funded and then what the total levy will be. So I'll pass it over to James. He's the first guy.
Thank you through the chair. So you'll see on the screen there, we have new council iPads with an allocation of $8,000. And that is just what it sounds like. That is for our new term of council beginning in 2026. And it's the funds we need available to purchase the iPad devices for each of those members of council in the new term. Any questions? Happy to take them.
Okay, thanks, James. Anything for James on that item? Don't see anything. We'll
Okay, so
move on to the next.
I'm on for the laptops. And so each year we try and replace 3 laptops. Last year we were able to take advantage of the Black Friday sale. This year we're not as on top of those numbers, but definitely 12,000 should be able to get us 3 laptops. And that just keeps us in our rotation for our warranty and keeps us out of any high risk security software updates. So that's that one.
Thanks, Wendy. Don't see any hands up. We'll move to the next one.
This is for the Memorial Garden that was brought to council last year for the firefighters in between the 2 buildings. We just, excuse me, this was removed from budget last year, and with discussions with the snow that we received last year, we have talked about locating to a different location, which is further down in between the buildings, creating a memorial area there, possible picnic area, possibility of reutilizing flagpoles from the old building. And then you'll see in the project justification, there is 3 flagpoles that were added or additional to that, but we may utilize those out front if depending on where the project goes of the municipal office. And then yeah, we'll see where that goes. The firefighters are going to donate a bunch of labor and help with the creation of that garden as kind of previously promised prior to us removing this project from last year. So this is just us bringing it back for discussion.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Questions for Nick on the Memorial Garden? Okay, don't see anything. Next item. Furniture and fixtures for the municipal office.
So this is a continuation of our upgrades of our office furniture within the municipal office, as well as the addition of a water softener in the building that wasn't put in originally. You will note that there is a portion, I believe it's around $9,000 that will be used from the modernization fund to help fund the desks that we have proposed here.
Okay. Colleagues, anything? Don't see any questions. Moving on to our next item. Chief Hunter, Fire Department, the SCBA packs.
Thank you. So this whole slide's mine, so I'll go through it. For 2026, the overall capital investment for the fire department is $328,690. That's broken up SCBA project, which is a completion of the 2025 project, $240,000, and that's fully funded from Fire Reserve. The small equipment, $10,000. Radios, laptops, hose, miscellaneous gear. That's funded through the levy. Personal protective equipment, $20,400. That's 4 new sets of bunker gear, helmets, boots, and gloves. $20,400 funded through the levy. The cancer prevention project, $16,800. It's for decontamination and toxin reduction equipment, and that's fully funded by the provincial fire protection grant. The last project is battery extrication tools, $41,490. That's for a new battery powered spreader and a cutter for vehicle extrication. Funded by the Fire Reserve and a 50% contribution from the Firefighters Association. And I'll gladly answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Chief Hunter. Opening up questions for the chief. We'll start with Councillor Foster on the speakers list.
I was just wondering for the SCBA equipment, how long it's rated to last.
15 years.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from anyone? Nope, don't see anything. We'll move on to the next group of subjects. That's transportation. So we'll look to Adam Ryan to help us with that.
Thank you, through the chair. So I'll start through my list here. The first up is Wellington Street reconstruction. So this is a carryover from 2025 project. Still some minor work there to do next year, including top coat asphalt. So that is included again. Next is sidewalk replacements for $50,000. This is an annual request that we put in for sidewalk repairs and replacements throughout the municipality. Next is the PXO crossing in downtown Mitchell. Again, that's a carryover from this year. So the project is slowly getting underway, but we do anticipate that to be finished next year. So we're looking to carry over. The same goes for the next dump truck replacement. If you remember, we had that approved through Canoe last year. Again, looking for a delivery date probably closer to February. So another carryover. Pickup truck replacement for 80,000. Again, another carryover. There was delays on the line when they were building ours. So again, we're looking, it could be delivered within the next week or two, but it's thrown in as a carryover just in case it doesn't come to the new year. Next is Nelson Street, so municipal cost sharing portion with Upper Thames subdivision, the creation of Nelson Street full urban cross section services. And then another dump truck replacement of Unit 91. Again, just looking to maintain our fleet and replace another dump truck multi-purpose unit with plow and wing. We also are looking to replace another pickup truck this year. Again, keep up with our attempt to replace fleet every 10 years or as needed. So we are due for another pickup truck. So that cost is in there. The next project is pre-engineering for structure 014H on Road 183. It is a split with Huron County. So again, just looking to get some pre-engineering work done so we can be ready for a potential project in the next several years for that bridge. Line 32 resurfacing. So again, looking to carry on with asphalt overlay on line 32. As you're aware, we have done several blocks over the last 2 years on line 32. So looking to carry on between Road 180 and 164. Again, we're looking, next project is line 49, and that is some preventative measures. So we're looking to get into the fiber chip seal once again, as we have in the past. Looking to get between 180 and 164 done on that as well. Our next item is furniture and fixtures. So that covers off equipment such as lawnmowers, chainsaws, drills, power tools that the department may need. We are due for a new mower behind our tractor for roadside mowing in the rural areas. So we'll be looking to purchase that next year. Decorative lighting, 55,000. So that is anticipated to cover the costs of new Christmas lights throughout the municipality. We are looking at I guess, a bit of a multi-purpose lighting feature, which could be utilized year round for different seasons throughout the year. So that is that project there. Vivian Lane Rail Crossing. Again, that project's been on the go for a few years now. We're just looking to get some geotechnical work done next year to keep moving along with that progress. And then the last one is 020H, line 21 reinforcement of a bridge structure for 47,000. Again, it was recognized through OSIM that we were due to get some repair work done on that structure within the next 1 to 5 years. So we're looking to cover that off next year. So you'll see that our total investments are just under 4 million, but we are utilizing some OSIF grants, reserves, and DC funds. So our total levy impact would be $766,817. So I'd be happy to take any questions on any of those projects.
Okay, thanks, Adam, for your report. Colleagues, questions or comments for Adam? Councillor Bank, go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski. The resurfacing of Road 132 from 164 or of 32, line 32 from 164 to 180, 8 kilometers, I guess, is $800,000. So $100,000 a kilometer to resurface that. Is that the going rate? Is that what we paid this year, or do we have some quotes out for that already? And that's what they came back at?
Good question. So through the chair, as of right now, we've buffered a little bit. We have a little bit extra there. So with the current rates that we're seeing, we would have enough to fund it. We're anticipating a possible increase, but we should hopefully see a number below that.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Any other questions? Don't see anything. Councillor Foster.
I doubt anybody has a good answer, but I was wondering for fleet equipment, how the province's new act might affect it. The Buy Ontario, they introduced it on Thursday, so who knows when it'll be law. But I was wondering how that might affect what we procure for equipment, if anybody had an answer.
At this time, we've asked for a legal opinion on the matter of on our procurement bylaw as well. So unless there's been an email that I'm not aware of, we don't have that answer yet.
It seemed like the natural question.
Okay, any other questions? No, don't see anything. We'll move on to the next section of transportation related. Or sorry, turn the page here. Wastewater. Kevin, go ahead, please.
Thank you. The first line item there is the Herbert Street Sewage Pumping Station mechanical refurbishment, sorry. It is essentially just a carryover from 2025, plus an additional funds to increase the funds that we are required to replace assets that are past their lifetime. The second line item there is the Grit Vortex drive and bowl gear. Again, it's a carryover item from 2025, as well as increase in funds. Estimated quotes came in with a higher price, and so obviously we'll need some more money. The third line item is move the RV dumping station to the wastewater treatment plant. The current location of the RV dumping station is a liability to the municipality. Suggestion has been made to utilize the receiving station at the sewage plant. The next line item there is the Grit Vortex compressor replacement. Again, it's a carryover project from 2025. It's another one where a new quote was given with a much higher price. As with many of our PLC panels, they're outdated, no longer supported, hard to get parts for. So to ensure continued operation, we would like to replace it. The next line item there is the wastewater treatment plant final effluent flume. It's to install the final effluent flume at the sewage treatment plant. As per our environmental compliance approval, we have to measure flow not only in but out of the sewage plant, and the flume is the most accurate way of doing that. The next line item, replace scum pump. Simple life cycle replacement. Then Wellington Street, the UV lights. Again, it's a carryover from 2025 with the original budget of 180 grand. While obtaining quotes, the estimated project would be closer to $250,000. It is to replace the current UV light system, which is no longer supported. You can no longer get parts for it, as it is a critical infrastructure. It is just a life cycle replacement. The total investment is $1,044,236. It would come from the reserves. Total levy impact would be nothing.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin on that part of his report? Councillor Foster.
Is there any good way the wastewater department can go about making sure that the stuff that they're replacing now will still be compatible when it needs some more love in a few years, so we don't have the long list of everything they no longer make that you can't get parts for that costs substantially more because the whole system needs replaced? Or is that like looking at a crystal ball?
Yes, we just need to continue our replacement costs. Some of these items have been probably left longer than they should have. But at the same time, you want to maximize your lifespan out of each item. So I mean, there's no guarantee. Some things with electronics, they go next year, they're outdated. Unfortunately, so.
Kevin, is it fair to say the working environment for some of these components, especially the electronic, I'll say the electronic wired components, they don't do very well in extreme temperatures and humidity, and thus forcing our hand on replacement?
Yes, unfortunately, some of the environments that some of these items are in are very harsh. And again, he's absolutely right. Some of them will not last as long just because of the environment that they're in.
Okay, Counselor Harold.
Kevin, did we, for the RV dumping station, like, I'm not real confident that moving it to a location where it's only open Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 or something similar to that is gonna be ideal or even sensible. Did we look at another location to move it to? And would $6,000 be the answer?
So currently it's a carryover from 2025, really just as a placeholder. We'd be looking to have further discussions before moving anything. That cost is the anticipated amount it would cost to move it to the treatment plant. But when that time comes, we would be open to discussion on where we could potentially put it, though.
You're good there? There's follow-up?
Yeah, I'm pretty much good with that. I'm just a little, I'm thinking that the 6,000 might be a bit shy if it's anywhere but there, that's all.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement. Anything further on this before we move on? I haven't been on council very long, but I think it's the first time that I've heard that the scum pump needs to be replaced, so I'm sure it's well overdue.
I'm pretty sure it's original.
To my point. Okay, so on that bit of the interesting news, we'll move on to the water section.
Thank you. So the first line item there is the water meter replacement program. It's just a continuation of our water meter replacement program that we do every year, just to keep the life cycle and to replace outdated handheld meters to a new radio meter. The second item there is the well 2 inspection. It is just our regulatory inspection of well 2. The third item there is the raw water lining of well 3. Currently, the raw line from well 3 to distribution center 123 is underneath of Lake Talus. It is very difficult to replace. Before any issues, we're looking at relining it just to increase the lifespan of that line. And the final item there is the construction of replacement of well 3. Obviously, everyone is aware of the issues at well 3. Again, total capital investment is $907,719. It will all come from the reserves with zero impact to the levy.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Counselor Foster.
Approximately how many of the water and wastewater meters is there still left to replace with the newer style?
Thank you for your question. There's approximately about 51%, 50% that were with the old style meters. So we're just trying to do our best to replace them.
Supplementary.
About how many percent do we replace every year with the current budget then?
I'm not exactly sure on the exact number because the budget is also used for new meters and that takes precedence over replacing them, unfortunately. So it all depends on how many meters we have to purchase for new properties being built. I would think we probably do about 100 a year. Percent wise, I couldn't tell you what that is.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this section? Don't see anything. moving on to solid waste.
Solid waste, just two items here. First one is the McDougal drain realignment, is essentially just removing the McDougal drain that's currently in the landfill to make way for the new engineered cell in the future. And the second one is the landfill fencing, is just replacing the farm fence on the east side to a more secure chain link fence, strictly for security reasons. Total requirement would be $30,000.
Okay, thank you. Mayor McKenzie, go ahead, please.
Just a question, Kevin, because we've been working on this McDougal drain, I think, for as long as I've been mayor. How many more years do we have till we have that completely moved over?
Through the chair, we anticipate 2, possibly 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a great project because we've done it over a number of years and we do it with our own staff and we rent a hi-ho to do it. So we're being practical with doing the project. I just wondered how long we were going to be.
Okay, anything else in this section? Okay, if not, we'll move to the urban storm system.
The storm is just a carryover from the Wellington Street construction project. Total capital investment would be $109,655. Again, requirement for the levy would be nil.
Okay, yep. Questions there? No, moving on. Next item, the level 3 EV charger installation.
This is a kind of a, if you will, a carryover project from last year. We were looking to get an IV level 3 charger installed, but there's been no further progress through that grant funded project. So at this point, we've just moved it over to this year and looking for updates from, I believe it's Ivy that will be installing it and let us know when that should be going in. So at this point, or whenever it goes in, there will be no levy requirement.
Questions for Nick on that? Councillor Foster?
What's the use look like at the rest of the chargers we've put in?
Minimal to okay, depending on which one you're looking at and location. We don't know what Uptowns use. That's on a different system, but with the arena and our ones at this location, you're about 6 to 8 a month, maybe charges.
Any further questions? So Nick, the Ivy group, the ball's in their court to get this item installed and up and running, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we've been waiting to hear from them. We haven't had any communication with them at all. So
Okay. Thank you. So if there's nothing further, we'll move on to the arena project. So I believe that's your section, Dan. Go ahead.
Would you want to wrap up the transit or do you want me to press forward with the arena?
Well, if you have transit numbers, we can move back to item 4.2, the PC Connect transit item, and where we left off is Councillor Vink had some questions on the business case. So go ahead, please, Dan.
Yeah, so the best I can do is look at the partnership as a whole. I can't break out the route specifically, but essentially where you're looking at from a cost from a program perspective is just under $1 million. Rides for the year are just under 15,000. Fares for a rider on average are $12. It does vary. So based on that, your cost per ride is just under $70 is where that breaks down. So depending on the grants that are received or not received, you're looking at anywhere from contributing close to $1 million towards your reserve or utilizing the reserve draw if they're not successful in any grants to cover shortfall in that time. And I do want to clarify, I believe your worship, you asked and I did answer incorrectly. So it would be essentially 4 a.m. stops in Mitchell, 4 p.m. stops. So the bus would start in Stratford, go to Listowel, turn back around to Stratford. So it would do that twice a.m. and then it would do that twice p.m. And we do have a mock schedule, but it's not set in stone. I can run through the times. Basically, your first one is the 6:24. Will get you in Stratford before 8 a.m. And then anywhere to your last one, you get picked up in Mitchell at 7:34, 9:34, 8:24, 2:24, 3:34, 5:34, and 4:24. Don't know if that helps or hinders, but it's just a draft at this time. I don't know if there's any other costs on the fare structure, but essentially that's probably the best I can do today.
Okay, Counselor, I'll look to Counselor Vink. That was your initial question. You're good? Okay, Mayor McKenzie, go ahead, please.
This is probably an unfair question and, you may not have the answer. I don't expect you will have the answer, but to compare this cost to the cost of the other transportation system that we're involved in at West Perth Village, how does that compare per ride? Does anybody know? And if not, that would be an interesting figure maybe to have.
Can look that one up and report back.
No,
if I don't.
yeah, no, I just, well, it would just show us how we compare, how it's comparing with what's happening here.
Any other questions on this? Counselor Vink?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski, Mayor McKenzie, do you know, is that a on-demand service at West Perth Village that when a person needs it, then they call and ask and they get to use it when they need it?
I believe so, yeah, so it's more like a Uber.
Okay, so we've had a presentation. We had some questions on the business case. I was wanting to ask my colleagues, would you prefer to see the answers that have been given out verbally? Would you prefer to see a report? So that we could possibly defer this item and come back at a later date. Would that make sense, Councillor Harold?
I would suggest that would be helpful for myself.
Okay, Councillor Foster.
Does staff have any concern about how that timeline will affect the partners in the agreement?
CAO Hobson.
Nothing that's coming to mind from that standpoint.
Okay, so if the mood is to defer, then to defer decision until written report comes back on the business case, I'd be looking for a mover and a seconder to that effect. So Councillor Harold so moves. Councillor Duck would second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that item, that vote is carried and the item is deferred until future date. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're still in the draft capital summary, item 4.4, and we're on page 67 of 161 on our agenda. And I'll look to CAO Hobson to start us off there, please.
Yep, thank you. So as part of the arena project, staff have brought forward a recommended budget estimate. So this budget would include replacing both roofs, replacing the slab and boards, replacing the refrigeration equipment, replacing 2 humidifiers, and then I'd say the change order perhaps on this project, from what was earlier communicated, is the need to relocate the refrigeration system and build a new refrigeration room. We go into some more detail in the report, but essentially the need for that is a health and safety perspective. If there were a leak in the current refrigeration equipment room, it's right next to your lobby. So we really have no separation between, generally speaking, our highest populated area in the arena and potential hazardous chemical, as well as there's some upgrades. There's some open pit drainage in there that we have to replace. We're no longer allowed to continue that system. Once we essentially start taking around, we have to bring everything up to today's standard. Through the report, we kind of utilize various options and staff are moving forward with this recommendation, noting that this is the high side of the budget and the low side could come into just over 4 million. At this point, staff are recommending that we utilize an Infrastructure Ontario loan, and we utilize our CCBF funding that was talked about earlier, along with our arena reserve draw to help offset the project costs. As part of this project, it was brought forward to staff to kind of bring in some consultants to kind of review and update our sponsorship and fundraising or donation evaluations. So that's not included in this dollar figure. It's on the next capital slide, but that's just a part of the picture and the story we're trying to show here. We do also have all the additional upgrades to the arena and community center outside of this project. Those include the AODA upgrades, which are noted as a reserve draw, and as well as some furniture and fixture updates as well. At this point, I'll stop if there's any questions from council on the project.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan on what he's reported on so far? Councillor Foster, go ahead.
With Infrastructure Ontario loan, it's locked in for the full term, correct? Like that's just how it is then?
That's correct. And that goes back to in the report, you can see where we're recommending a 10-year loan. We think that's going to keep the interest cost the lowest, but additionally, staff would recommend that the payments on that loan following completion of the loan be kept and be put into a reserve or a future arena. Essentially, doing this work gives you another 50 years. The building itself has about a 100-year lifespan. So this will give you another 50 years. And it'd be ideal to have a reserve funded to help with that project. I should also just take the opportunity to mention that we are looking at still considering the feasibility study for either a new pad adjacent to or a new a field house. It's basically kind of a 1A, 1B type of project, getting the costs and the business case brought forward. I think, in defense of that too, there's something to be said that in 50 years, it could potentially warrant a second pad. The latest we have right now says we don't warrant a second pad, but as part of this analysis, we're really looking to unpack that as well and get a definitive answer and perhaps identify when we may need a second pad. So that's part of that project as well.
Councillor Duck.
I'm just curious, of the items listed here, how much would we actually look at or think we could get done in 2026 versus carrying over to 2027? Then, like, how much of it is reasonable to think we could get done throughout the year?
Part of the reason that our recommendation is here, looking for group buying procurement methods, are so essentially we can start tomorrow. So if you're building the new refrigeration room and utilizing new equipment, that doesn't impact current operations. So they could get started, I won't say in 2025, but at least pretty quick into 2026. We think it's reasonable to complete the whole project if we start now. Could be some renovations still on the existing refrigeration room, but that wouldn't affect operations of rentals or users of the arena. What would obviously be impacted and noted in here is summer rentals, Buck and Does and etc. They wouldn't have access to the pad. I don't know if it would be all summer, but we'd be targeting fall to have it completed.
Counselor, I'll first check. Any other counselors, any questions? No, then Counselor Foster, go ahead.
Approximately how much use does it get in the summer?
Over the last couple of years since I've been here, there's been 5 or 6, give or take, bucking-toes on the ice pad. Then we utilize it for camps and other events or programs like that throughout. So depending on what is scheduled throughout the year, that's kind of where it goes.
Follow up?
So the hope would be that it would be completed in time, so there'd be minimal effect to next year's ice pad usage would be the hope.
Our hope and plan is there'd be no effect.
Counselor Chessel.
My understanding of the amendment that was made about option number 3 was to put a new arena on the table with a field house going in the existing. So I feel that it's not prudent that we redo the current arena until we've done the feasibility study to figure out if the arena is warranted, as why are we spending 5 million on something that doesn't make sense? Or we need to take that amendment off the table, because right now that amendment should be included as our procedural bylaw in the actual direction that was given.
Look to staff.
Staff are bringing forward the option to repair the arena, which I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that that was our direction, was to bring that forward as part of the budget and to continue to explore the other 2 options. So I think that's what we've done here. But that's a decision to council to do this option or not. But we unpacked the costs short of going to tender with option 1, I'll say.
Follow up?
So then I feel it should be put to council first to decide if we go with the feasibility study first, and then circle back if we should then update the arena if that doesn't meet and go through first.
Okay, I'm going to ask my colleagues for a recess. There's some procedural questions here that I need to confer with the clerk first before we proceed with anything further. So I would request at the call of the chair a recess until I can get a few things clarified, and then reconvene as soon as possible. Is there a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Foster, Counselor Phelps, all those in favor? Thank you. We are in recess. It is 8:33 and we are back assembled again here. So there's a little bit of a miscommunication. So what I want to do here is on these slides, if I could have a point of order with some quiet, please. Thank you. We are on page 66 of 161 on my computer. So I want to move on with 67 of 161, the arena roof replacement and upgrades. And where I want to go is I want to go through all of these slides and all of these presentations until we get down to the page, whatever number it is, where the item 4.5 report comes up. So what that means is I want to go through all the slides, all the presentations from all the department heads. Then we will get to item 4.5, West Perth Mitchell Arena and Community Center, where at that time CAO Hobson will give out his report again. And then at that time, we will deal with Councillor Chessel's question, okay? So that's the direction we're going. So I will call upon Nick to start on the On the arena on page 67, go ahead, please.
Okay, roof replacement, I think that was just discussed in the previous slide and it's tied into the arena project. Tables and chairs and small tools is updating and replacing tables and chairs within the arena, and the small tools is about $5,000 of that just for tools for our department throughout the year. AODA improvements at the arena as outlined in our BCA that we had presented, arena heaters and shower valves. So the arena heater is in our end of life heater that's in our Olympia room, and our shower valves are to replace the aging valves in the rooms, the Hawks room 5, 6, 7, to help better utilize those showers. Ice plant also was presented previously in the arena upgrade presentation, and then the feasibility study as well too that was discussed prior. Total capital investment is just shy of 5 million. Reserve use is 295,000. Reserves of 402,000. Other is the loan as mentioned was the 4.2 million, and leaves us with a levy impact of 94,800. Any questions? If I can answer them now.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Any questions on the information contained on that slide? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next one, please. Furniture and fixtures.
So Ketterson ball diamonds, that is to add the material to the 3 clay diamonds as we are to the point where we start grading those diamonds and we're losing material and exposing some of the gravel. Park railings on bleachers was identified that we need to add some of those safety features to our existing bleachers out there, as well as kind of an AODA requirement. Lions Park exercise equipment was brought forward through a counselor to install certain types of park equipment, outdoor rec features, if you will, within our parks. Lions Pool House and Pavilion, that is to replace a water line from the pool house, which runs the water at a pavilion. It's currently leaking about halfway down the hill, so we need to replace that with a proper line between the 2 buildings. Passive Park security cameras, that is camera upgrade at our welcome center, and losing it. And our at our Marin's Pavilion is updating the wooden shingles at that on that pavilion, or the little hut there. It has been moved forward from 2029, as it has been noted that that roof has deteriorated quite a bit. Where are we? Passive Parks wayfinding signs as outlined in our sign plan that we had been given. We put aside $25,000 for that project. Optimist Club is donating an accessible swing set in addition to, or adding to our accessible playground down at Lions Park. And total capital investment is 181,000. Donations for the park is 35,000 from our Optimists, and this leaves us with the levy impact of 146,000.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Any questions on any of that information? Councillor Chesil, go ahead, please.
The ball diamonds at Ketterson Park, does that include all of them being renewed with fill?
Yes, it is replacing the material on those diamonds.
So all 4?
The 3 for sure with the clay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can special attention be placed at where the infield meets the outfield, so where the grass meets the clay?
Yeah.
So that there's not as much of a dip as there currently is.
Yes, we can look into that definitely when we replace that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Counselor Foster.
With all of our parkland upgrades, are we allowed to put any of the money that's set aside from development charges or the parkland dedication money to help pay for any of that or not? Is that
I believe in order to use the parkland fee, it has to be new park. It's not any replacement or existing parks.
so upgrading existing parks doesn't qualify for the, thank you.
No, I think it was made clear during the DC charges presentation that it's anything over and above what we currently provide in our level or in our array of services. Okay, thanks, Wendy. Any further questions? Mayor McKenzie.
And I haven't got it in front of me. I could go back, I guess, but the exercise.
Point of order. Counselor Rose, Counselor Foster, this is the last warning. You do not have the floor. Counselor McKenzie has the floor. Okay, I appreciate your cooperation. Thank you. Please, my apologies, Mayor McKenzie, go ahead, please.
So the item there for exercise equipment, I believe it was 36,000. I'm just wondering, in seeing the donation from the Optimist for the accessible swing set at 34, almost 35,000. If there isn't an opportunity there for some of the other service clubs to maybe tap them for the exercise equipment. Yeah, what is it there? 36,965. Just a thought. I throw that out if that's something that we could maybe take out for the time being and see if there was any interest in the service clubs.
Staff, who wants to take a crack at that one?
I think, sorry, if you're looking from a staff perspective on it, we can certainly do that. It's something that we would look to cover in our evaluation from sponsorship and donations to put some values on these things. So that's what staff could propose at this time. I don't know if you were asking for us to remove it pending funding.
Well, I was just putting it on the floor, I guess, to see if there was any support for that.
Counselor Duck.
My personal opinion, I'd like to see it stay in there and then we go down the sponsorship route with it. I think there's lots of opportunities for the different items that we'd be looking at putting into the parks that people could hopefully step up and sponsor them. And that's just my 2 cents on it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Counselor O'Donnell.
Just a quick question for clarification, like, do you mean wait until a sponsorship steps up to put it in, or do you want to put it in for a sponsorship opportunity?
No, I think I'd like to see it installed regardless of the matter. I've got some requests for it and I think there's just good opportunity to have it, fitness equipment, good for mental health and things like that. So I'd like to see it go in regardless. And then I would like to add it to our sponsorship program, similar to the different things that we offer, and people can sponsor, whether it's individual pieces of equipment, the whole park, the different concrete assessment or structures. But no, I think it's important that we put it in now.
Any other questions or comments? Counselor Phelps.
I would concur with Counselor Duck on that. Just leave it in and we can go to the service clubs. Sometimes service clubs have things on the burner that they're already saving for or directing for. Never hurts to ask. I always found asking always got us somewhere, but no one knows unless you're involved in the service club what their money that they're fundraising for is right now. But 35,000 is a very reasonable service club project. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, if not, moving on to Moving on to the pool is next. Nick, go ahead.
Yes, for the pool upgrades, this includes a manual pool vacuum to help keep the pool clean without much staff labor. And then continue with our upgrades, repairing the large pool floor basin, which currently has a crack, and redoing the small pool coping in the wall to bring it back to a usable, full usable condition. So any questions, I can take them now.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Anything on the pool? No, don't see anything. So we'll move on to the next slide. Recreation facilities, starting with the Broadhagen Hall report.
Broadhagen Hall upgrades, this includes the replacement of the fire alarm system out there. As identified in our building condition assessments, the Dublin Lions Community Center upgrades is kind of a part donation, part municipal funded project, which includes the HVAC and the heating system out there. So there is a couple, the donation and the funded through us to update those systems. And OPP station upgrades, that is some heaters throughout the building that have been kind of neglected and have met end of life and need to be upgraded, as well as an OPP station generator, which we have put in for an emergency preparedness grant, hoping to get those funds. And then if accepted, we will put in that generator system so that additional 25,000 would be utilized for that project. Then, yeah, through all those projects, the levy impact would be just over $87,000.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Any questions for Nick on this segment? Fair bit of work being proposed there. Councillor O'Donnell.
To the chair, the OPP generator, would you be able to tie that building into the generator that's existing already there to run the water treatment next door?
We did look into that, and the current generator runs a lot of our water systems, and to have that tied into the building and the water just isn't feasible. As well, the current generator size would not run both.
Anything further, Phil? No, you're good. Don't see any other questions pending, so we'll move up to library, please.
For the library, we're looking to update the security surveillance system interior wise, and then add additional security cameras throughout the exterior of the building. And we're also looking to do our AODA upgrades that were identified in our building condition assessment. And we will be utilizing $71,000 for the AODA upgrades, and that just leaves a levy impact of $20,000 for the cameras.
Okay. Questions for Nick on those items? Rosemary, did you have anything you wish to add to that report?
Not really at this time. In terms of the security cameras, there's only one functional security camera inside the building and none on the exterior. So this would address that, and it would, these would all be monitored centrally through the Community Services Department.
Thank you. Nothing else, then we'll continue with the next slide deck, community service fleet.
This pickup truck is being brought back from last year. We're looking to or replace our one truck that failed this year for us.
Okay, any questions there? Don't see any. All right, we'll move on. Planning and development.
This is the budget for the development of the Huron Industrial Park, both phase one, phase two. So at this time, staff are looking to fund this development through the industrial reserve and take the phased approach and start phase two after phase one is sold. And there's some revenue there to incorporate into phase two.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Any questions on that? Fairly straightforward. Okay, Wendy, did you want to give a summary then on the capital items we've discussed so far?
Yeah, so all those projects amount to just close to $19 million. We are able to use $2 million roughly for grants. Your obligatory reserve, which makes up your DC and your CCBF funding, is just $1 million. And then your overall reserve, so that's also hitting your water, wastewater, is $3.3 million. $70,000 approximately for donations, and then other is made up of your loans. And so that ends us with a levy impact of $1.3 million. So that's what's needed to be raised in order to fund the capital projects.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Any further questions on the information presented thus far, notwithstanding the arena that was mentioned earlier? Okay, so at this point, the recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth receives the 2026 draft capital summary report for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Duck, second by Councillor Phelps. Any further discussions? Call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Thank you. So now item 4.5 listed on our agenda, West Perth, Mitchell Arena and Community Center. CAO Hobson will represent his report, but first I will call upon Clerk Hudson to just refresh council on how we got here. If you could go back to your records for the October meeting, where we had the arena discussion, and there was a motion along with an amendment. Could you recall that and read it out aloud?
Through the chair, happy to do so, yes. So this is going back to the October 20th regular council meeting. This is resolution 35725, moved by Councillor Harold and seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. And that was that council directs staff to include the necessary arena maintenance and repair projects in the 2026 capital budget, and further direct staff to explore design options and cost estimates for a future indoor recreation facility and field house, including an indoor walking track. This motion was amended by Councillor Chessel, which was seconded by Councillor Foster. And that amendment reads that council directs staff to explore design options and cost estimates for a potential expansion, option 3, as identified by the West Perth Arena Building Condition Task Force. Both the amendment and the main motion were carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Clerk Hudson. So that's just a recap of how we got here to this point. So at this juncture, I'll turn the floor over to CAO Hobson to present his report under item 4.5, subject West Perth, Mitchell Arena and Community Center.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So for the first part, where staff are including in the budget the necessary arena maintenance and repair projects in 2026, some of those we went over, but majority of them as we outlined in this budget for the arena project. And again, that includes the roof, the slab and the boards, as well as the refrigeration equipment. Noting that there's a scope change here to build a new refrigeration room, along with a renovation of the existing room, replacing 2 dehumidifiers, and the contingency on the high end, setting the budget at approximately 4.7. On the low end, setting it would be approximately 4. At this time, staff are recommending the high-end budget as the budget number. We're looking to utilize an Infrastructure Ontario loan. And as discussed, we're also looking to bring in the CCBF funding along with the Arena Reserve to help offset the project costs. As noted previously, in the Infrastructure Ontario loan, we are recommending a 10-year loan to keep the interest costs down. It would be fixed for the term, locked-in loan. And at the end of that loan payment, staff at this time are recommending that we take that payment and put it towards a Arena Reserve for the future. In addition, we've already discussed utilizing a sponsorship and fundraising evaluations to support this project, as well as many other projects and assets across the municipality. And we're also noting in here that we would be looking to bring back to council support to apply for a grant application to the Rural Ontario Development Fund, which has a potential funding amount of an additional $250,000. Just quickly scrolling through my report here. And I think at a high level that covers it for that aspect of the project. In addition, staff are saying at this time that to carry on with the second part of that motion and the amendment of the motion, we're essentially bringing forward the option to hire a consultant to come out and create business case and feasibility study and costing for us to not only build and construct either a additional pad or an additional field house, but also a business case on the operating side and how much one of those facilities would cost as well. So I think there's a couple different paths here forward tonight, and this is what staff's done to date.
Okay, thanks, CAO Hobson. Okay, opening up the floor to council for questions and comments. So I'll circle back to Councillor Chessel. If you could restate your position that you mentioned earlier, please.
My understanding of the task force option number 3 was to build a new arena and repurpose the existing into a field house. So by putting $5 million into an arena that would be potentially changing into a field house, seems like we're getting our ducks out of order.
Okay, staff want to address that?
I think staff were presented with multiple options with multiple ducks that could align multiple ways. So we've brought forward the cost to essentially do option 1. It was discussed that night as well that there was another option outside of the 4 options presented to the task force. One of those options being to fix the arena and build a field house. So staff were also looking to explore that. So I think the short answer of it is we can't within staff tell you how much it's going to cost to build a brand new arena and really carry out that option 3. If council's wishes are to go purely to option 3, then I think you have the answer in here, and it's to utilize the consultant to do the feasibility and costing study. If council wants to do option 1, you have the answers in here, and that's the arena project. If council wants to do one before the other, we're at the discretion of council of how we move forward on this matter. So I don't know that there's a clear path for staff to move forward. I hope that helps. I don't know if it does, but.
Follow up, Councillor Chessel.
Yes, I just want council to be aware that we need to make the decision of which direction we're going and then deal with the budget issues.
Councillor Duck.
My question, I'm not sure if there's an answer, but if we looked at doing the feasibility study and we gave that an approval as we're talking about it here tonight, what is our timeline? And again, you might not have the answer, but to get that information back from whoever's doing that study, is it something that we're going to have in a year, in a few months, or is it just this situation that we're pushing down the road again here? I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
You would have it within 2026. I think it would depend on how much public engagement we'd want to go down on that option. That would push the timelines, but you would have it in 2026. You wouldn't have it early enough to make a decision, I would say, for a go, no go on the arena upgrades as presented to you today.
Follow-up?
When you said like the interaction, you're talking like with the public again? And what, I guess my question, if we're going to go down that road again, what are we looking for different this time that we didn't already look for in the multiple methods that we have already done with the community?
It was requested that if we're going through the process by the public, if we're going through and designing a new arena or a new field house, that we would have more public engagement on that design and that costing structure moving forward. So, sorry.
No,
Yeah.
that's-
Counselor Harold and then Counselor Bank to follow.
Thank you. So that the original motion in October was put forth by myself, and the intention was to go ahead and do the necessary repairs and upgrades to the arena simply because we have an arena already. It just needs some repairs to go back into being what it being in top shape again. The amendment, in my mind, is covered because it says it's asking for us to look into the cost of another option, which that will do. And to get a new arena, you won't get one in the next couple of years, probably. And if you did, I'd say we did really well. But if we took the time, if we spent the money now and gave ourselves some years of good use with that building, maybe the study will say in 5 years, it's time for a new arena, or 10 years or 20 years. We don't know that, but it would give us time to put some funds away for it, which we haven't got enough in my mind. We're not prepared for that at this point. And it's a quite a large sum of money we're looking at. And the repairs is a lot of money too, but it's fixing a building that's already in pretty good shape. It's just the equipment is old. It just needs to be replaced. The feasibility or the building assessment told us that the building is in reasonably good shape. It needs a roof, just like anything else needs a roof. Once in a while, you've got to do some repairs. I really believe we should take the time to put the money into fixing the arena as suggested in the arena project slide that we're looking at. Do the study down the road. Maybe it's not an arena, maybe it's a field house, but we're not going backwards and we're not doing it out of order, in my mind. It's an ice pad now. It stays an ice pad.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Harold. Counselor Bank, you're next, please.
Deputy Mayor Trentowski, if I recall the discussion from that October 20th meeting, to Councillor Harold's point, when we had that discussion about the necessary repairs, I recall we were talking about what repairs can we do to the arena in 2026 that are going to benefit both options, like the roof is as an example. We would repair the roof, whether it is either of the options that we chose. So I thought that's what we were directing staff to include in the budget, was the necessary repairs that no matter which option that we chose, that we could get done in 2026 to get a head start on either of the two options.
Thank you. Counselor Foster, you're next on the speakers list.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but on the amendment, which I was the seconder on, I understood more as a regard for if we're doing major structural repairs to the building, was to make sure that they're done in such a way that if we are to be expanding it later, that we're not smashing out our own work that we've just did very recently at the time. It was to make it so that if you were to extend it the way we had that map at the public visitation, I can't remember the word we used for it, at the arena, so that it would all tie together if that's the direction we went at a later date. I'm not sure if I'm remembering wrong, but that was kind of the understanding, as well as to Vinc's point of fixing what always had to be fixed because it's past due.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Phelps.
I think the proposal is exactly what we need to make sure that we have ice in our original arena. It gives us time to plan, because we all know that in that 37 years, if some of us are still here, the things will change, structural change, building code will change. And we've had arenas in the past that they moved from somewhere and built them, and then they got condemned because of age, because of structure, because they didn't meet building code. We don't know what's going to happen 37 years down the road, but what we do know is the expected life of the equipment that's there now. We're 3 years past what they say the expected life is. And I think we need to get moving forward and get this fixed before we're standing there and we've got no ice for all the user groups that are in there, and we have to start scrambling around. As we know, ice is not readily available. If we've got to reschedule in Moncton, Seaforth, Listowel, Millerton, wherever, nobody likes to travel. And if the old equipment fails, we failed. And I think we're looking at what you have to do. As they pointed out, or Steve pointed out, roofs you need to do. The building is old and it needs fixed. The ice and equipment is old and it needs fixed. We can afford to do that. We can afford to build a new arena in 5 years, 10 years. That takes planning down the road. In 74, if we just set up what we were talking about now, we wouldn't be sitting in this position. As I said before, we'd be looking at a new arena. And all of that stuff that we're talking about is design and delay. It's delay, it's delay. And I think it's time we just pick it up and let's do this. Like, there's no waiting.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Phelps. Any other? Counselor O'Donnell, did you have your hand up?
I guess my only question would be, like the rest of them have been saying, do the necessary, do the roof and then the slab and dasher. I think moving the refrigeration room is a little overkill. If you're in 20 years from now, you are going to replace it. So I think that's a cost savings. So that's just my opinion.
Could someone from staff repeat the reasoning behind the relocation of the refrigeration?
So the reasoning behind moving the refrigeration room is the fact that there is health and safety concerns with the public, with the location of that, if there was to be a leak in that space. And then the open pit as well in that area that doesn't meet code today is also a concern. If there is a leak, that it could move through the building and, as Dan said, hit our lobby with the most amount of people right away. It'd be the first place it would hit. So it comes down to the health and safety of our residents and our staff working in the building.
CAO Hobson, go ahead.
I'll just add, it's fairly minor, but if we do move it and relocate it, we could switch.
Point of order. Point of order, please. Chair Hobson or CAO Hobson has the floor. Please respect who has the floor. Go ahead, CAO Hobson.
Sorry, if we do relocate, we can switch to a glycol based system versus the current brine system as well. So there are some added benefits through having glycol over brine. Particularly, it's less corrosive over time as well, is the main factor.
Thank you. Councillor Duck, you had your hand up. Go ahead. You're on the next on the speakers list.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Frankowski. I was just going to echo what has been said already. I think we do need to move forward. Yes, the arena committee did their job. They came up with the recommendations based on the information they had. Then we had the open house, and for people that were there, the public came out and they did what they were supposed to do too. They were to inform us of what they felt, and I think it was pretty widely heard as to how the people in this community felt about option 3 and option 4. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the feasibility study and getting things done, but like Councillor Phelps just said, we're not in a position where we can even go to other communities and ask for ice time, because this is not a thing that exists. Every community is feeling this crunch, and if we have to tell user groups, you know, hockey and ringette and different things like that, that we can't offer them an arena to utilize, what is that going to make us look like as a council? So you know, I've said it before, I think we need to move ahead with this arena project here. The council or the administration has done a good job of piecing it together and breaking it down for us in a way that's pretty reasonable and understanding, and I think we need to stick forward with our guns. It's not fair to put this on another council if we start pushing off again. We've spent 3 years, will be 4 years, and we've had ample time to deal with this, and you know, it's our time to make these decisions and not, again, move it down the road. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Duck. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item further? Councillor Foster.
If we go ahead with the renovations to our current building, how does that affect the accessibility standards which it's held to? As far as things like our parking lot and all that type of stuff for space requirements and how it would affect like the tractor pull track and everything that we've seen if we were to extend the building, is that going to be affected, or can we sneak through as an existing building on a lot of those?
I'll look to staff to answer that.
Sorry, I think that might have been a multi-part question. I
Like,
get,
when we looked at expanding it, we had to expand the parking lot because we needed the minimum parking space as well as our accessibility spaces. Right, so it was going to be extended southward. Would that still have to happen if we renovated it, as well as what would be needed inside if we renovate it? Or since it's existing, do we not have to change anything as far as our accessibility goes?
from an AODA perspective, whether we change it or don't change it has no bearing. AODA is there, and it's kind of where we need to meet the standards of the day for an accessible building from a public building. From a parking perspective, if we do the repairs, I'll look to Matt if he can comment on the parking stalls specifically.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't had a chance to look into it too much, but yeah, like AODA standards would not be required to the compressor room. They'd be exempt from that. Then we're proposing to put it on the north end of the building. I think it will fit just from the preliminary measurements and information that I've got. I don't think anything's changing for parking.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Last call. Councillor Chessel.
With the new refrigeration room, are there any sound considerations that would come from that room that would affect our nearby residents? And how big is this room?
Look to staff.
Yep. So there's nothing in the zoning bylaw that speaks specifically to sound, at least in the Parks and Rec zoning, which it's in. But it is something that both the planner and I are going to look into because it is a consideration. There is neighbors that are backing on there. The size, I'll let Nick talk to that.
The suggested size was about 800, 800 square feet. So not much bigger than, be smaller than the additional shop that was put on back there. So if that kind of puts a size to it, it'd be in behind that new shop that got added on a few years ago and then out that back door kind of area. So there was also consideration with the condenser that is at the front of this building for noise. We would move that further into the building towards Diamond C, if you will, to help mitigate some of that noise from the condenser when it runs. So there is, like Matt said, they're going to look into noise on that end. And then we've already discussed some of the noise considerations with the other equipment that's exposed.
Is that, you're good? Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster again, please.
What's going to happen to the old compressor room then?
As you would see up here, there's an existing room rental, which is the existing compressor room. It is noted to be moved into an office / storage space for the community services department.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor O'Donnell.
Just a quick question. Can you change the existing room from the brine to the glycol based?
Staff.
If we were going to use existing equipment, a lot of that cannot be used in the glycol system. We'd have to change out some of the larger equipment for that.
Follow up.
So at the end of the day, you got to replace it anyway. What now you're just saving 600,000 by not moving it.
We do not have to go to glycol. If we don't change any of that, we don't have to change to glycol. We can stick with the brine system and use the existing equipment if we went that way.
Any other questions? Okay, last call. Counselor Banks.
Deputy Mayor Trentowski, it sounds like you're getting closer to having somebody make a motion on based off of the recommendation. So as we get there, there is one thing that is in the recommendation, and that's the direct staff to proceed with the 10-year Infrastructure Ontario fund for the remaining. And it specifies a number. I think we should take that number off because that's the max, but just for the remaining. But I also would like to then remove the long-term debt from the previous report that the treasurer presented. She presented the report, the changes in operating to date, and the arena long-term debt was there, $250,970. Because we won't be going to Infrastructure Ontario until the project is complete. So there won't be any debt on the 2026 budget. So we'll have that $250,000 back again, because that wouldn't take place until the construction is complete and we go to Infrastructure Ontario, maybe 2027 or something.
Staff, Wendy?
Yeah, staff thought it would be good to at least put half a year's payment in on the books so that next year you're not having to raise $500,000 for that payment. So it's kind of like a phased in approach. So based on the timelines that we've talked with Infrastructure Ontario, it will take roughly 12 weeks from substantial completion to receiver funding. So we are aware of that, and we are aware that there potentially could be no payment, but at the same time, that's a big ask in the next year's budget of $500,000. So staff did look at that, and we thought it would be good to at least put half the payment in.
Follow up? Nope. Okay. All right, if there are no more questions, no more comments, I will read the recommendation as presented and then open that up to the floor. Whether there's a mover, seconder, or someone wants to propose amendments, that can be done. First of all, I have to read the recommendation. I have to put it on the floor, or present it so that it can be put on the floor. Or if there's someone else wishes to do something differently, they can do it at that time. But I will read the recommendation as given here, and we'll go from there. So recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth pre-approve the 2026 West Perth Mitchell Arena and Community Center capital upgrade budget of $4,786,818, and that council directs staff to apply $295,995.64 from the 2026 Canadian Community Building Fund, CCBF funding, and that staff also apply $285,061 from the Arena Reserve to the 2026 West Perth Mitchell Arena and Community Center capital upgrade, and that council directs staff to proceed with a 10-year Infrastructure Ontario loan, IOL, for the remaining balance up to $4,206,000, and that council authorize staff to utilize group buying procurement methods in accordance with municipal policy and bylaws. So that is the recommendation that has been put forth. Now, at this time, I will ask my colleagues if anyone so wishes to move and second this or present an alternative concept. Okay, Councillor Duck.
I'd move it, and I just have a question for Wendy, if I can. I'd just like to know what the balance would be in the reserve after that, we can deal with that after, but I would move it. Thank you.
Okay, so moved by Counselor Duck. Seconder. Counselor Phelps, you wish to second? Okay, so we have a mover in Counselor Duck, a seconder and Counselor Phelps. Okay, Counselor Duck, could you repeat the question that you asked earlier?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to know what the arena reserve balance will be after we subtract the $285.61 from it. What will be remaining? Thank you.
Yeah, there'd be approximately $50,000. So we are using a lot of the reserve. And I think that's when we looked at the half payment, kind of was the idea too, that if we got the infrastructure loan ahead of time, if all the timing worked, we would have money to pay for it. And if not, it would go towards the reserve. We are depleting it essentially. And we left 50 as a small contingency.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Counselor Bank.
Deputy Mayor Trentowski, when the time comes for the vote, could it be recorded vote, please?
I'll note to the clerk that Counselor Bank has requested a recorded vote, so I will, the clerk will get prepared for that. In the meantime, I will look around the table if there are any more questions or comments on the motion that's on the floor. Counselor O'Donnell.
Is this recommendation to complete all that is included in this, or is this just to secure the money?
We'll look to staff.
It would be all that's included in this.
Yeah, the scope is included in the report. Any other questions? Comments? Final call? Okay. I will then, we have a mover and a seconder. I will call the question and I will look to Clerk Hudson to conduct a recorded vote, please.
Well, thank you. And through the chair, I will look to the members of council in a moment here. I will state your name and I will ask that you respond either yay or nay. Looking first to Mayor Walter McKenzie. Are you in favor or opposed?
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Dean Trentowski.
Yay.
Councillor Alex Foster.
Yay.
Councillor Diane Chessel.
Nay.
Councillor Ryan Duck.
Yay.
Councillor Doug Phelps.
Yay.
Councillor Steve Harold.
Yay.
Councillor Philip O'Donnell.
Nay.
Councillor Murray Rose.
Yay.
Councillor Nicholas Fink.
Nay.
And that motion carries on a recorded vote by a vote of 7-3.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Hudson. So I guess a procedural question, given Councillor Fournier's absence, how does that figure in on the recorded vote? What does our procedural bylaw say to that effect?
Through the chair, the member of council is not present at the time of voting, so they are absent from the vote, so they're not counted within the recorded vote.
Okay, and if this question were to be reconsidered at a later date, would Councillor Fournier have any ability to recall the vote to bring up the question again?
Through the chair, bear with me. Essentially, reconsideration may be brought by a member who voted in the prevailing side, the majority on the original motion. So to your specific question, Councillor Fournier is not present this evening, has not voted in the majority of the prevailing side, and therefore could not bring a request for reconsideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Hudson. So we have dealt with this matter, and we will then proceed to item 4.6, the 2026 10-year capital plan. Treasurer Wendy McMurray will start us off, please.
So on your desks, you'll have a bunch of spreadsheets that we copied out. Just I figured it might be harder to see on your devices. So on the 10-year capital plan, we're looking from 2026 to 2035. There's a summary sheet that kind of summarizes all the departments. The full value of your 10-year capital plan is roughly $108 million. Currently, it does not have 100% funding. We've looked at the funding model, and we're just having some issues funding it. And so whether that's deferring projects or taking on more debt, that's our current situation. And we're hopeful in 2026, we'll be able to do more additional work with the 10-year capital plan and marry it with your asset management plan. So the two systems talk to each other. So in looking at each of the departments, we definitely saw that there was some increased years. So obviously this year, there's an increase with the Heron Business Park and the upgrades to the arena. In 2027, there's an additional $3.5 million, and that is kind of deferred projects from previous years that, based on our current landscape, we thought it would be best to defer them into 2027. And then in 2028, you have your wastewater treatment expansion at 11 million. And then you have 2030, your standpipe project at 5 million, and then your domestic landfill at 4.5 in 2032. So there are some big capital expenditures coming. Some of them are, if you were to look at each of the individual departments, you can see there's allotments for roads and bridges and equipment. So we are kind of pulling together all of our condition assessments, our master plans to help build this document. I'll say it's still in its infancy, just with some change in department heads and understanding the landscape of those reports and how they work, and kind of picking up from past managers. Probably going to see this document change a little bit as we kind of work through it, but we did look at it the lens with the asset management to some degree, and trying to put the priority projects that are in the master plans and condition assessments in this report. And so there is quite extensive list of assets, but with your asset management plan, we know that you're upwards to almost $800 million in assets. So it doesn't surprise me that we have $108 million over the next 10 years. So if there's any questions that you want further details, we're happy to kind of go through them with you.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Speakers list, Councillor Foster, you're first.
Approximately how much short are we on funding for the 10-year capital plan at the moment?
The funding, we incorporated the 4.6 starting in 2027. And then in the funding formula, we put $1.5 million as a contribution. With all of that, we're still short 30 million. And so we have to come up with a creative way to fund that gap. And so we have modeled a few options, but we're working on it.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Any other questions on this report? Don't see any. All right, so on the item 4.6, 2026 10-year capital plan, recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth receives the 2026 10-year capital plan report for information. Moved by Councillor Harold, second by Councillor Phelps. Last call, questions, comments? None. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 4.7, 2026 Reserve Budget Report. Treasurer McMurray, please.
So this reserve report kind of gives you a breakdown of all the reserves that we've estimated to be what your ending balance would be in 2026 with all your budget transactions that are in this current budget. There are some carry forward projects in the recommendation to move into reserve and then pull out in 2026, and that would be your dump truck and pickup truck. And then here in the report, we've talked about some of the withdrawals that are coming from the operating side. So you're going to have things like your election reserve. So your election costs are being funded by the election reserve. And you have different items within the operating side listed there, and they're more in detailed in the report. And then for your capital withdrawals, a lot of that is from your water, wastewater. So it's showing up there. And then where you're adding funds. So this year we increased, we did a transfer to the fleet reserve at 1%, just because we know we've got some dump trucks coming up and some pickup trucks, and that reserve was depleted. And so we thought for 1%, we could add $121,005 into that reserve. And then you've got buildings adding to the reserve. But overall, you are withdrawing from your reserve about $2 million this year. The one thing to note with the recommendation is we are also looking for, council had requested that the shortfall for Ketterson come forward during budget time. So we thought it would be a good time to bring that forward in this report. And with that, I think there's still $600,000 in your tax stabilization reserve at the end of this budget year. So you still have $600,000 to use for tax stabilization if you would like. So just to note that there's still that $600,000 after the withdrawal from the Ketterson. So if there's any questions on the reserve, I'd happy to take them.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Colleagues, questions or comments? Councillor Bink, you're first on the speakers list. Go ahead, please.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski, specifically to that tax stabilization and Ketterson Park. So you mentioned that there'd still be 654,000 left in reserves, but that line didn't show up in our report. So the starting balance was 654, and then the ending balance was 654. And there was no transfer. So just wanted to make sure that one of the two couldn't be correct, I guess.
Yeah, so what we did is we did that assuming all the entries were done. So we assumed that the entries would get approved just in the report. So yeah, you have close to 900,000 in your tax stabilization currently. Does that clarify that question? Okay.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Foster, go ahead.
Once we're no longer using the funding we're receiving for sponsorship on Ketterson Park, what reserve does it go into if it's no longer going against what's owed?
That's a great question. I think probably once the sponsorship program report gets developed, or we'll have direction from there as to where those funds will go. Currently, if someone were to donate, we could bring a report forward, because we'll have those sponsorship items that I think their third year is ending this year. So.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? No, one comment or observation, if there are no other questions or comments. The $334,650.16 from tax stabilization reserve to be used to fund the unfunded portion of the pavilion. Whether it's a point of information or just a historical context, there was on that project, there was $200,000 of contingency spent on electrical. that money came from, I'll say, tax stabilization. Somewhere the municipality had money allocated to be dedicated elsewhere. It was not, particularly the road grader. And at that time, the road grader was deferred, so that $200,000 contingency could be covered. And as a consequence, when the road grader was then purchased in 2024, that purchase price went up by $200,000. So that's the historical context. And I guess the point of information is that when we, as a council, decide on these projects and on the spending, there is a kind of like the law of physics. There's an equal and opposite reaction. There is a consequence for every decision that we undertake. So I just, I guess, a point of information or some advice to colleagues when we consider these questions. We must consider the consequences, intended or otherwise. So if there are no other questions or comments, then I'll read the recommendations as follows: that the council of the municipality of West Perth directs the treasurer to transfer $380,000 that was budgeted in 2025 for the replacement of a dump truck 2025 project TRN-0009 and replacement of a pickup truck 2025 project TRN-0010 to the reserve for transportation fleet / equipment 001-1000-0930, and that the $334,650.16 from the tax stabilization reserve 01-1000-0911 be used to fund the unfunded portion of the Tim Hortons Pavilion in Ketterson Park. Do we have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor O'Donnell, you move. The seconder, Councillor Phelps. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Councillor Rose, go ahead, please.
So just for clarification, we are that 334,650 is going to pay off the Ketterson Park, which we had talked about previously but didn't. So now it will be done. Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4.8 to 2026 summary of the staff draft budget. Treasurer McMurray, go ahead, please.
So this is the good news. So we are sitting at roughly a levy increase of 7.68 and a tax increase of 6.18. We are factoring an anticipated growth of 1.5% reduction. We won't have those numbers until the next couple of weeks. But essentially, back from the beginning, I said that the operating budget was contributing $443,663 towards capital, and your capital budget requires a levy of $1.3 million. So you subtract those two, and you are left with $929,879. That's an increase from last year's budget levy. And so again, just to repeat, your levy increase would be 7.68 the way it stands, and estimated growth at 1.5. So your tax rate increase would be 6.18.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Questions for Wendy on this report? Councillor Bank, go ahead, please.
Maybe to you, Deputy Mayor Chantowski. I was wondering what the next steps after tonight might look like to try to refine some of the information that we might want as a council team to refine and make any changes.
Okay, what refinements were you referring to specifically?
Well, I have some specific ones if you would like specific ones, or does that come at a later date when we are talking about passing the budget?
I will look to the clerk on, I think you're talking about the mayor's budget. So I will, look to the clerk to provide the response.
Through the chair, could I just ask the counselor to ask their question once more, just so I'm directly addressing?
What do the next steps of the budget after tonight's presentation look like if we want to make some changes to any of the presented materials? And maybe we want to have a project delayed a year or moved ahead a year or something along those lines. When do we talk about that, and how do we go about those kinds of discussions?
Through the chair, so it's a multi-part question there, and that's why I wanted you to ask that again, is I may defer to our treasurer to answer some questions with respect to the next steps of our process here at West Perth. So what is it going to look like for us? But I'll give you some dates as it is today for figuring around the strong mayors legislation specifically. So our next meeting here reserved for the budget is December 15th. On that day, should the mayor's proposed budget be released at that time, there would initiate a 30-day legislative clock for amendments. That's the opportunity for members of council to propose amendments for the mayor to consider including within their budget. That 30-day period, as it is today, would run from December 15th to January 14th, 2026. Council would have the opportunity to shorten that 30-day amendment period. If they were to shorten that, that would be through a vote of council, likely occurring at the December 15th meeting of council. Looking forward from the 30-day period, that would take us to January 15th, 2026. That then allows the mayor's amendment veto period to initiate, and that is a 10-day period. So I'll pause there. If no members of council make or propose an amendment within the 30-day time period, and they also choose not to shorten that 30-day amendment time period, the budget would be deemed adopted on January 15th, 2026. However, if amendments are proposed by members of council within that 30-day amendment period and it is not shortened, the mayor has a veto period of 10 days where they can simply exercise their veto right to any of the amendments proposed by a member of council. The mayor may choose to shorten their veto period. However, if the mayor does not shorten their amendment veto period, January 25th, 2026 would be the end of that time period, and council would have a further 15 days to override the mayor's veto. So you've taken my thunder from a future report on December 15th, but I think I've outlined what I was going to tell you there. So per legislation, the budget's deemed adopted a maximum of 55 days following the release of the mayor's budget, that being February 9th, 2026, if it is released on December 15th, 2026, and we do not shorten any of those timelines. But I think it's fair to say that may be on the table for discussion at a future meeting. I'll leave it there and look to Wendy if there's anything to add or to Dan.
I think for staff, any council discussion would be welcomed because that way we can prepare something and then have kind of it buttoned up for the 15th. So then all those timelines kick in. So yeah, if there's items that you want removed or deferred, I think this is the time.
Follow up, Councillor Bing? Nope, you're good. Councillor Foster, you're next on the speakers list.
I guess mine's a follow-up to Vink's. So if we have questions or comments or amendments to make on the 15th, the next council meeting we have is the 12th of January. So then if we wanted information from staff or whatever, we get it at that meeting. And then can we choose to extend the length of that if we wanted more information or anything like that? Or that's a hard deadline, budget has to be passed? Or how does that work? Like, is it only the deadline start when we originally passed the budget or when Walter proposes it?
Through the chair, the timelines that I've referred to are fixed by legislation. They can be shortened by council or the mayor, as I referred to. They cannot be extended. The timeline is initiated when the mayor's proposed budget is released.
And then further, Clerk Hudson, once the mayor's budget has been released, only then can the amendments be submitted?
Through the chair, that's correct. Amendments would be submitted in writing and considered by council at a meeting. So to Councillor Foster's point, the meeting currently scheduled within that 30-day time period would be January 12th.
CEO Hobson.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate on treasurer's comments there, we do want your comments and feedback now if possible, then we don't have to deal with the timelines and the new legislation. It's quite formal to go through that process. It's not a reason not to. You can, it's your right as councillors to do it. But our direction from his worship and that we've communicated throughout this process is we want to get ahead of it. We want those changes and those discussions now if possible.
Okay, anything further? Councillor Vink?
Then Deputy Mayor Trentowski could I offer a few suggestions for council consideration at this time, do you think, or feedback or?
I believe, yes, you can provide us with your list.
Okay, thank you.
But we will not debate the list.
Okay.
It will be presented as information. And as Clerk Hudson mentioned, once the mayor's budget has been delivered, only then can the proposed amendments be submitted in writing. So we'll consider this as for information heads up, sort of like a movie preview, if you will. So go ahead, please.
The notes that I made during tonight's meeting, the first one, on OPP station generator. I was wondering if we could have that in the budget, but only if the grant comes through. Not either way, only if the grant would come through that we would do that one. And the other one note that I made was I'd like to the amount of parks projects, the capital projects on parks. I would like to use half of the ask, the $146,000 that we have in parks projects. I'd like to take half of that from reserve funds instead of putting it all on the levy. And then lastly, the transit. I think the transit discussion, the $155,000 that we have in the budget, I think that should be taken out until we have a wholesome discussion on the transit.
Okay, so noted. Just making some notes here myself. I'll just look to staff if they're clear on that. What Councillor Vink has listed, okay. Wendy, go ahead.
So would you be looking at the Parks and Rec reserve to fund the parks? Okay, just so I'm clear on that one.
Mayor McKenzie, go ahead, please.
So, just a question for Adam and you know, after almost 3 hours of a budget, my mind gets a little foggy, but this goes back. Seems to me, did we not have a generator from the sewage treatment plant that we were going to replace, or there, for some reason or other, I was thinking there was a spare generator in the system. And my question is, would that work at the OPP station?
So yes, those discussions did happen, I believe, with staff that aren't here tonight, but I don't know, Nick, do you have more information on what transpired in those conversations?
I think the discussions mostly surrounded when we applied for this emergency preparedness grant last year and possibly utilizing it at Dublin, which doesn't necessarily have the same amount of draw as the OPP station. So this year, when we applied for the emergency preparedness grant, we thought proposing it at the OPP station would give us a better chance to get that grant. So that's kind of why we went about that. I'm not 100% sure it would have enough power for the OPP station, but it would be something that could be utilized, say, at Dublin if we wanted to go that route. But that'd be something we have to confirm the size of that generator.
So I guess my question still is, do we have a spare generator floating around out there somewhere?
Yeah, so the generator is still there, and like Nick said, we would have to run some tests on it and find out exactly what it could handle, but it is still within the municipality.
Yeah, I don't know. My farming background would tell me if it can run a sewage treatment plant, I think it could run the OPP station. But anyways, I don't know. The other item that I wanted to get some further information on, and we talked about the transportation. And I had asked about the cost of comparing it with the mobility bus. And we did talk about that being on demand, but I think if we knew what the cost was per trip, it's something to keep in mind. Also, what does it cost to take a taxi from Mitchell to Stratford? Because that's kind of the same area that we're talking and using the bus. And I think that's a cost that that we should maybe have just to compare with what we're looking at of the overall picture here. So it's just so we're comparing apples with apples. And that's my 2 points.
Thanks, Mayor McKenzie. I think staff is clear on those 2 points. All right. Colleagues, anything else that you wish to give staff and the mayor a heads up on prior to December 15th? Last call? No? Okay. All right. So there is a recommendation here on item 4.8, 2026 summary of staff draft budget. Recommendation reads as follows: that the council of the municipality of West Perth receives the 2026 summary of staff draft budget report as information. Moved by Councillor Chessel, second by Councillor Rose. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. All right, item 4.9, West Perth Village Country Tailgate Music Festival Facility Rental Fee Reduction Request. Director of Community Services, Nick Larson, will lead us on that report. Or
Sorry, Chair, I'm just wondering if I can request a short recess as well.
Oh, okay. Yes. I'll ask that we enter into a short recess at the request of the CAO. Councillor Foster? No. Okay, you move that. Second. Councillor Phelps, all in favor? Okay, we're in recess. Okay, it's 9:59. We're back in session again. So at the request of Mayor McKenzie, he would like to open up the items for discussion. There's 3 items offered by Councillor Vink. So the first item, Councillor Vink, you wish that the generator at the OPP station only be included in the budget if the grant is successful. So Councillor or CAO Hobson, go ahead, please.
And thank you, Chair. We can almost take them one by one. That is how it sits currently.
Okay, is there any, looking to Councillor Vink, is there anything further? Okay, we don't need to discuss or debate that one anymore. All right. Second, your second item was on the parks, the capital spending. There's $146,000 ask, and your suggestion is to fund half through reserve, half through the levy, so $73,000 apiece. Okay, so I guess that is that's the item. So I'll open the floor to discussion on that proposal. Councillor Foster, go ahead.
What would that bring the reserve levy down to, or the reserve balance down to?
Brings it roughly down to 83,000.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right, so I'm looking to the clerk here for some guidance. We'd be looking for a mover and a seconder then to make a recommendation to the mayor on that point.
The chair, that'd be appropriate at this time.
All right, so I guess we'll have to craft the appropriate wording. So the motion would be that the capital spending for parks of a request, or the capital spending requisition for the parks item of $146,000 be funded equally from reserve, the Park and Recreation Reserve, in the amount of $73,000, and funded by the levy in the amount of $73,000. I'll look to Councillor Vink to confirm that's his intent. You so move that. Seconder, Councillor Foster. We have a mover and seconder on the motion. It's on the floor for discussion. Last call. Okay, seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Okay, your third item, Councillor Vink, was on transit. Your recommendation is that we remove the transit item in its entirety until there's a more fulsome discussion at council. So I guess I would need, is that at the next regular council meeting, or what do you propose there?
My proposal through you to council would be after CAO Hobson prepares a written report back on some of the details that we laid out. So yes, at the next regular council meeting, if that is when the report is coming back, or at a later date, and then we can add it into the budget after if we need it in.
So CEO Hobson, go ahead.
Yeah, I can, as long as the clerk, deputy clerk can grant me a little bit of time here. We have to have that report in tomorrow or today. So as long as they'll extend the deadline to me, I'll get that on the next council meeting.
Okay, so what's the exact wording of the motion then? Just need to tidy that up.
It was deferred earlier on that, so I think we can carry on with that one.
So we'll just carry on with the original, or the previously made direction then. So there's no further, we don't need to address this further then. Okay. So that's dealt with. The mayor has made his comments regarding the OPP generator, and also inquiring about the cost of taxi service in relationship to the aforementioned business case for the transit item. So is there anything else?
I can just include that in my report from tax.
Yes, yes. Okay. Looking to Clerk Hudson, are we good so far? Okay, Councillor Chessel, you have something?
So then with regards to the taxpayer tax increase of 6.18, what did that obviously got reduced. So what is it reduced to? Do we have that figure right now?
Yeah, it just gives us a few seconds to switch some spreadsheets around. Yeah, so we took out the 73,000 or added $73,000 in revenue. So then it changes. So your levy increase is 7.08, and then we're assuming a 1.5% reduction. So that is 5 point. No. It's math at 10 o'clock at night. It doesn't happen very easily. 5.58, so almost 5.6. And then it would change in the report a little bit on the increase on the median households. If you want, I can give you those numbers. Okay. It reduces it a little bit.
Though those numbers, we could clean this report up when the mayor's budget is presented at that time. Yes. Follow up, Councillor Chesil.
So then could I propose that we target a 6.5% increase and that the remaining dollars we need be funded through the tax stabilization?
Do you repeat that, please?
So that the increase would only be 6.5. So Wendy had just stated 7.01. So it's 0.08. And I would like to reduce it to 6.5. And then the difference would be funded through this tax stabilization reserve fund.
So you're proposing this as a motion to be, you're wanting to make this a motion to be presented to the mayor for his consideration
Yes,
for December 15th.
I'm just giving him a heads up.
Okay. Just look to the clerk to read that back to us before I look for a mover and a seconder.
I have it here and please feel free to correct me if I forgot anything wrong here, Counselor. That the levy increase be reduced to a maximum of 6.5% and that the remaining requirements to meet the levy be funded through the tax stabilization reserve. I'm not sure if I captured that faithfully or not. Okay.
So the motion, I'll look to Wendy if she has something to add there.
Yeah, so that would take 70,183 out of your tax stabilization. Some quick math.
Okay, so Councillor Chesil, you're satisfied with that motion as it was read by the clerk? Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bink. So mover and seconder, open the floor for discussion. Councillor Foster, you're up first on the speakers list.
If we go forward with a motion like that, does that bind us to anything in regard to if we have a action on the transit? Because that would, if we end up not doing it or something like that, it would naturally bring the budget down. So would it affect us in that regard, or would it just become null and void at that point?
The staff.
At this point, we would be targeting 6.5. So I think regardless of how we got there, if we got there through the reduction in transit, then we're there. It makes it null and void. If we're not there, then we would utilize the reserve. That's staff's interpretation. And the numbers that we're tossing around right now are inclusive of transit at this time, just to confirm.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Last call. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are in favor. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defeated. Anything else? Last call. Okay, we move on. Item 4.9. West Perth Village Country Tailgate Music Festival Facility Rental Fee Reduction Request. Director of Community Services, Nick Larson, will present the report.
Through the chair, on November 3rd, council directed staff to bring back a recommendation that we reduce the rental fees for the Mitchell Tailgate Fundraising Committee's Country Festival being held on September 18th and 19th here in 2026. The recommended reduction totals $5,331.03. That's a 50% reduction in fees. If council approves a 50% reduction, the municipality will still recognize the full rental revenue and taxes. An offsetting expense will be allocated to the community grants account. 0182953120. If there's any questions at this time, I'll be happy to take them.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Questions for Nick on that report? Councillor Foster, you're first on the speakers list.
With the repairs being made to the arena, would the arena pad be ready in time for the fair and for their use?
I'll look to staff.
Through the chair, at this time, there's no reason that it shouldn't be prepared for those events, starting with the fair and the tailgate.
Follow up.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nick? Okay, seeing none, read the recommendation as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve a 50% reduction in the associated rental fees for the Mitchell Arena, Community Center, Kennerson Grounds, and Lions Pavilion for the West Perth Village Fundraising Committee Country Tailgate Music Festival being held on September 18 and 19, 2026. Moved by Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor Phelps. Any further comments, questions, debate? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, that concludes the budget items for tonight's agenda. Just a couple of comments. In future, as the chair of the budget committee, I appreciate and encourage debate and discussion around this table on the questions. But as chair, it would be, I would ask that any proposed amendments that are thought out ahead of time, that they be relayed to the chair so that the chair is made aware of them and can manage them appropriately during the course of the meeting. And secondly, I ask for your continued cooperation with respect to who has when we're in these meetings and having these discussions, when someone has the floor and has their turn to speak, that the other members respect that, so that we can all hear what's being said clearly, and so that the chair can also effectively listen to what's being said and manage the meeting accordingly. So I ask for your continued cooperation in the future, and thanks to your participation and your input this evening. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks to the staff for their preparation and work to get us to this point. And I will pass the chair over to Mayor McKenzie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Good job. And I want to echo as well, thank the staff for the amount of work that they've put into this budget deliberations. I was looking here to use this. I've never used this yet, but I didn't have to use it tonight. Maybe when we do the budget, we'll see. Anyways, upcoming events. December 1st is our next meeting, and that'll be number 3 in a row for us, three Monday nights in a row. 5 o'clock at the fire hall, I believe, Bill, if you can make it. 6 o'clock here for a meeting with Chief Henry, and then 7 o'clock is our regular council meeting. So yeah, that's 2 hours of a meeting already before we even get started. So we'll see how it goes. The other item I want to mention is December the 5th is the Lions Club Santa Claus Parade. We are in the process of getting a float together, but we do want people on that float. So I'm not going to ask you tonight. It'll come up next Monday night. That hope we can get a good number of souls, kids, family members, whatever, on that float. We don't have a closed session tonight. No correspondence, so brings us down to the confirmatory bylaw. And that's bylaw 68, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time this 24th day of November. Reverend mover and seconder for that. Councillor Phelps, Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And bylaw 68, 2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a third time and finally passed this 24th day of November. Mover and seconder, Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn, that we adjourn at 10:16 PM. Moved by Councillor Phelps, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.